back a little. Having said that, he's played for Australia, represented Australia in numerous World Championship and World Team events, and is probably the favourite for this competition. He's certainly the highest ranked player in this competition, so he may well, he's got a very good chance of pulling through no matter what. Now there, interestingly, he played a stroke where both balls started in contact and one of them went off the lawn. And that is also a situation where a turn ends. So although he had two shots left when he played the stroke, he effectively forfeited the second one by putting a ball out of bounds. That's probably not going to matter to him too much, given that the opposition is a long way from anything, and Forster is close together with his two balls. But it just meant that he couldn't have that final extra shot to set up exactly as he wanted to. Dwayne McCormick here, although he's leading 15-9, he has a very long shot to get in, and if he misses this, which he did, black coming back like that just means it's hit some very hard concrete at the other end of the lawn, not that he's hit anything. If he misses this, it could be all over. This is a situation where Stephen Forster could play the yellow ball next and could very possibly play a sequence of shots which could win him the game. He could score all his hoops in this next turn. $1,415 hoops. Very good. Talking about hoops, just looking at some stats here, Stephen Forster has played 1,619 competition games on the rankings. And he's won 1,085 of those. Now that's in the current lot of rankings, which only go back to 1985, when the modern ranking, or the consistent recording of results began. So Stephen Forster has been playing since he was very young. Dwayne McCormick, his opponent, on the other hand, has only played 950 ranking games, but he's won 618 of those. So his percentages are slightly higher. However, he's only won 40% of his matches against Stephen Forster, so pressure is well on Dwayne McCormick for this one. Not that he has anything he can do about it when he's the out player. And as I said, Stephen Forster may give him no more chances whatsoever, but we will see. Croquet is an interesting sport in that the most popularly known element of it, that is being nasty to your opponent, is only part of the game. So it's not just hit a ball, hit your opponent away so they can't do anything. You must also do your very best to score as many hoops as you can in a row by yourself. Very much like snooker, where a sequence of well-executed shots will get you a lot more points than just defending and keeping your opponent from doing anything useful. Now, as I said before, this particular game in the first 8's block of this competition, well, these games are untimed, so we could be here all day if things went downhill. But the other games and a lot of the surrounding lawns, being in the lower brackets of the competition, have time limits on them, I believe, of 2.5 hours. It's unlikely normally that top players are going to take that long, but conditions vary. Sometimes the wind gets up, sometimes the ground is very dry and hard, and it's very hard to control the balls. Sometimes the hoops are set in the ground so firmly that it's hard to get a ball through them, remembering there's only about 0.4 of a millimetre difference between the width of the hoop and the width of the ball, and things can go rather slowly. Now top level players can finish a game in half an hour, and that's pretty much how long it takes to walk around all the hoops and hit all the balls required. But an untimed game can theoretically go for, well, forever, but I can remember seeing a World Championship match 2 years ago where there was an untimed game that went for 5.5 hours, and that was the very first round in a block competition. So a player had to play 9 games in 3 days, and the first went for 5.5 hours, so that was a little tricky for them. But at least you get a result at the end of every croquet game. It's not like Test cricket where you can play for 5 days and end up with a draw. Croquet, you can play a best of 5 match that can take 12.5 hours, but you will get a winner no matter what. Bar lightning strike, flood, fire or pestilence, of course. So Stephen Forster made 11 hoops here. He's going to the 3rd hoop, so top right of the screen next, and then he'll be coming down to the 4th hoop, which is bottom right of the screen. So he has laid the balls out in such a way that he can leapfrog his way around the lawn. So he has a ball at the 4th hoop all ready for him when he gets there in a minute, and he has a collection of balls here by the 3rd hoop. Now, that's more than usual. Collection in my definition being more than 2. But that's because not only is he trying to hit the yellow ball through the hoop towards us as we look at the screen, so that's the 3rd hoop, but when he comes through the hoop, he will try and hit red, which is his partner ball, and he will try and knock that back through the hoop away from the camera. Now, he can't strike red with his mallet. He can only hit yellow, which is the ball he chose to play at the beginning of this turn, but he can line them up so that red in this next stroke will go through the hoop, or at least get very close to it. Remember that Stephen Forster has 2 shots here. He's hit yellow onto red, which gives him 2 shots. The first one he used to put red through that hoop and to send yellow where it is, and with his second shot he can then hit another ball, in this case blue for obvious reasons, and he will now put blue across at the 5th hoop, which is the one at the bottom left of your screen with the red paint on the top, and he will try and get his yellow to the left of the black ball, so that in his second shot from now he can hit the black towards the 4th hoop. All pretty simple textbook stuff for Stephen Forster. But so it should be for somebody who's been playing for about 35 years. Interestingly, most people think of croquet as a sport for the elderly, and certainly at a club level you can see that. A lot of retirees take it up purely because it is not too physically demanding, but at a competition level, especially at a high competition level, it is much more a young person's sport, purely because the younger, the 20, 30, 40-year-olds have much better muscle control than people who are in their 60s, 70s and 80s. It's the same for most sports that are not particularly physically demanding. Snooker, darts, bowls, all the sports like that. Although an 80-year-old can do every shot as well as a 25-year-old, and can certainly play the games strategically just as well. They can't repeat the same shots over and over and over again as consistently as a lot of the younger players. So at a top level in croquet, say the top 20 or 30 in the world, the average age is probably going to be somewhere in the 30s. The world number one happens to be an Australian, aged 25, from Victoria, who's unfortunately unable to compete in this event due to work commitments. But he's one of three brothers who are all in the top, I think their numbers 1, 5 and 11 in the world at the moment, which is not bad for a set of siblings. But they are the top three players in Australia, and they're all under the age of 27, which is pretty good for an old person sport. So Stephen Forster here, coming up to the 5th hoop with yellow, so he's playing yellow through the hoop away from us. And he'll be moving up to the 6th hoop, which is the one at the top of the screen. He'll also then be putting the red through the 11th hoop, which is also the one at the top of our screen, but he'll be putting it through back towards us. So Forster, when he goes through this hoop, will have made 5 hoops with the yellow and 10 with the red. So he's now equalised the score at 15 all. The next lawn up on your screen, we have Kevin Beard from Victoria playing Eric Ayling from Western Australia. Kevin Beard is the player in play, and I think he's still trailing. Yes, he's trailing 8-11 to Eric Ayling. Eric had a pretty bad first round, remembering that each of these players plays all the other players in their block of 8 twice. So they play all 7 other players in a row, then they start again. Eric only won 2 of his 7 first round matches, and so far yet to win a game in the second round. Kevin Beard's doing slightly better. He also won 2 of his first round matches, but has won 1 in the second round. Kevin Beard, a very good player, very consistent player, has represented Australia in the World Teams event, but the other players in this event are also very good, and if you are not playing your best day after day, then the results will reflect that. So at the moment, the leaderboard in the first 8 is Stephen Forster, the player in your screen, with 10 wins, and Jim Nichols from New South Wales with 9 wins, Stephen Richards from the ACT with 8 wins, Dwayne McCormick, who's the opponent of the player in the screen now, Dwayne from South Australia with 7 wins. Then we have Trevor Bassett with 6 wins. His match against Alison Sharp on Lawn 1 looks like it has just finished, although yes, so he seems to have lost that one, so he's still on 6 wins. Kevin Beard, Alison Sharp from New South Wales, having just beaten Trevor Bassett, will be up to 4 wins. Kevin Beard with 3, and Eric Ayling with 2. In the second 8s, just as an update on results, the leaders after the first round, so after the first 7 games, were Murray Baum from South Australia and David Luxmore from Queensland. They're both still in the lead, each having 10 out of 12 game wins. They play each other. They may even be playing each other now somewhere on a lawn that I can't see, or they may play in the last round. So we've each got 2 games to go anyway, the one they're currently participating in and 1 more, so that'll be a 2-horse race there, Murray Baum and David Luxmore for the second 8s. The third 8s will be decided between Kerry Ann Organ from Victoria. She's on 11 out of 12 match wins at the moment, an extremely good score, against her only serious opposition will be Virginia Arney from South Australia, who's on 10 out of 11 wins. Note that we have both men and women playing in the same events here. There are gender-specific events in croquet, so men's only and women's only, but given that intellectually we're all the same and physically the sport of croquet is not that demanding, there are, the majority of the events are open events where both men and women play. Now, if you look at the ranking lists, there are probably only 1 in 10 women in the top, say, 200 in the world, and this is not at all reflective of potential for women to do as well as men. It's just purely there aren't as many women playing competitive sport, in croquet anyway, as there are men. It's always been the tradition of upbringing. The men and the boys are more sporty ones, at least later in life, and at competitive level, even in these, a lot of these equal ability sports, that's the way things go. But women are certainly perfectly capable of beating any of the men on any day. There's just less of them to do it. More women in croquet, that's what we need. Having said that, though, in the third 8, so the players 17 to 24 in this event, 6 out of 8 of them are women. So I think we have about a third of the players in this event overall are women, 2/3 men, which is a fantastic example of capabilities of both in the sport. Stephen Forster coming up to hoop 9 here. So coming up to hoop 9 means he's made 8 hoops with the striker's ball, yellow. His partner ball, red, has made 10 hoops. Given that he only needs 26 hoops to win, it's more than possible that he will do that in this turn. So if he gets his yellow through all the hoops and the red through all the hoops, he'll hit both of them onto the peg in the middle of the lawn. And once each ball hits the peg, that is the end of the game for Dwayne McCormick and Stephen Forster. Bit of interest back on lawn 4, and we had Jim Nichols, who is the other player in contention for the main event here, playing Stephen Richards. Stephen Richards was ahead for quite a while, and still is just ahead, but Jim Nichols has a turn. He has a chance to hit something. He's got a long shot, but I'll keep you updated on how that game's progressing. Stephen Forster here is querying something with the referee. He thinks the hoop is loose and wobbly. Now you might think a loose wobbly hoop is a good thing. Might be easier to get a ball through it, but it actually takes a lot of the momentum of a ball, any ball that's not hit absolutely perfectly, away. So he wants the hoop as firmly in the ground as he can in this particular situation, so that it doesn't flex and spring the ball. He's trying to get through it back. Now here yellow is not going for this hoop, but yellow, having hit red, has 2 shots, and he can, if he so chooses, line the balls up. So in the first shot, red goes through this hoop, which will give him an extra point. And because of the friction between the balls, now they will pull slightly. So even if they are lined up to go in a particular direction, he's got to allow for a slight bit of pull, very much like a swing in cricket or something like that, or spin in snooker. The ball will go not quite where it's lined up.